Today on Time About the Movies, we have another big 3D picture coming your way this week, and who better to put their stuff in 3D than the Jackass crew? Jackass 3D, we'll take a look at that. We'll also take a look at Bruce Willis, John Malkovich, Morgan Freeman, and Helen Mirren in the action comedy Red. We also have the limited release of Clint Eastwood's latest film, Hereafter, and also Hilary Swank begging for another Oscar again in Conviction. So, four films to take a look at as we look at the middle of October 2010 today on Time About the Movies.
This isn't the best idea ever.
When Time magazine called 3D the future of movies.
3, 2, 1.
Without this is what they had in mind.
You're taking it to a whole other level.
Yeah.
Look pretty happy about it.
Me and the boys are about to do a little duck hunting. Whoa!
Santa did have a couple last night, so this ain't gonna feel too good.
How much? How you been? High five!
I mean, who can honestly ask for more? Welcome to another episode of Time About the Movies. Today we are taking a look at the four films released on October 15, 2010. And this is obviously the biggest new release of the weekend, Jackass 3D. And that's right, the Jackass crew are taking their stunts and more and putting it in the third dimension in 3D. You know I have to do that at this point with every 3D film. But this is notable for a couple of reasons. One, it's the last time you see Ryan Dunn with the Jackass crew before his death the following year, and Bam Margera is no longer with the crew after this point in the series, because you know he left in 2021. Even though he was in Jackass forever, he was only in there for like a little bit. Like you would have never noticed him unless someone told you. That's Bam Margera right there. And of course, sadly, his life right now is not going in the best direction right now, unfortunately. But also, this was also the last time you saw Rip Taylor in the Jackass film, because he passed away in 2019. Which is amazing because I didn't think he was that old when he was he wasn't. I didn't think he was at that age where I thought he was going to last much longer than that after this movie came out. But lo and behold, he lasted 9 more years after this movie came out. But you really need to know what the plot is. It's a bunch of drunk guys doing ridiculous and dangerous stunts and laughing at that person's expense, but in 3D. Okay, I'll stop. And yeah, that's the beauty of the Jackass movies, is that you really don't need any more details on how to make is on the plot in general. Just know it's the Jackass guys doing what they do best, and yeah, 3D surprisingly and shockingly was actually the benefit for this series, because those 3D cameras that they use for this come in handy when it comes to these stunts. They take these stunts to the next level and beyond, and that's what's amazing about this movie, is that this is some of the most creative and hilarious stunts I've ever seen in my life. And it's just not just the 3D stuff, but the stuff, the stuff at the beginning. It's bookended by two great bits. The high five scene, which you see in the trailer there, the guys coming into the Jackass studios, and Weeman's just like, hey man, high five, and then this giant hand hits the screen, and hits them, and that's great. The Pooh Cocktail Supreme, part of their, this came out around the time the 10th anniversary of Jackass was, and that was one of the original stunts they did. And this time it's Steve-O doing it instead of Johnny Knoxville. Even though Britney Spears, believe it or not, was actually going to do that, but she decided not to do that. But yeah, it's a great celebration of Jackass in general. Not just a great celebration of Jackass, but a great celebration of MTV. This movie You don't think about it when you look at the trailer for this, but this movie is a celebration of what made MTV so special back in the day. I mean, you have the movie open up with Beavis and Butthead telling you about 3D glasses. It doesn't make any sense to the plot. Beavis and Butthead are not in the rest of the movie, and yet it just feels right. It just felt like MTV was back to celebrating what MTV was all about before they became known for such great stuff as The Hills and Jersey Shore. And good Lord, MTV, what the hell happened to you? But like I said, it's a great retrospective of the last 10 years. I mean, the film's elaborate opening has a number of great homages to the past, like, you know, Steve-O jumping up and hitting a ceiling fan, just like even in the first Jackass movie. There's references all across the movie, and even the movie ends with this nice tribute of all the gang. It's with Weezer's memories playing in the background. Like, you gotta remember, they really thought that this was going to be the end of the road for them, but nobody really knew the series was going to continue long after this movie came out, with another movie coming out 12 years later, and then, of course, before that, Johnny Knoxville did Bad Grandpa, which is the weakest of the Jackass movies, but it still has enough moments in there to appreciate it for what it was. But Jackass 3D just works because they take what made the original show so special. It's a celebration of the last 10 years. It's a celebration of what MTV used to be, and it shows Jackass taking their talents to the next level in 3D. 3D, surprisingly, made this much more than it had any right to be. It was such a good, fun ride. You can't help but love it. If you love the other movies, you're going to love the hell out of this one. No question about it. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the movies that had the balls to go up against Jackass 3D. And first one is an ensemble, an action comedy ensemble, and that is Red.
We're going to break into the CIA
And find out who's trying to kill us.
We're getting a band back together.
I am excited.
Bruce Willis, Morgan Freeman, John Malkovich, Mary Louise Parker, and Helen Mirren.
I remember the CIA being tough.
Yeah, me too.
Red, directed by Robert Schwenkamp, rated PG-13.
The last of the big Men on a Mission movie that came out in 2010. This is based off of a comic miniseries by DC, written by Warren Ellis and Curly Hammer, and follows Bruce Willis as Frank, who is retired, bored and lonely of living off the government pension in a nondescript suburb in an equally nondescript house. The only joy in Frank's life are his calls to the government pension processing center, where he gets to talk to the caseworker, played by Mary Louise Parker of Weeds fame. Sarah is as bored as lonely as Frank, and marks her conversations with the unknown Frank and her spy novels as the only thing fun in her life. When something in Frank's past forces Frank back into his line of work and puts an unwitting Sarah in the middle of the intrigue, Frank and Sarah begin a journey into Frank's past and the people that he used to work for. Like Frank, they are all red. Retired, extremely dangerous. Now that sounds like the plot of a badass action film, and for the most part, it delivers on its plot, and it almost works to become a really good movie, but the plot just goes all over the place, and it's so confusing that, once again, you have no idea who the villain of the film is towards the end. Like, you have no idea who the bad guy of the movie is. Like, I mean, that's this film's two biggest flaws. One, the script is just terrible. It's a script written by the guys who will later give us the asset that is Battleship. They have no idea what kind of a story they wanted to tell. Do they want to make a story about these former CIA agents, or do they want to make a straightforward, predictable action film? And the film doesn't give us any real indication on what the motif of this film is supposed to be. And on top of that, again, this is one of those movies where there's so many villains put into this film, you have no idea who the main bad guy is. I mean, it's not that damn difficult. Just pick somebody and move the fuck on. But other than that, though, I guess the movie is good, I guess. I mean, the cast is more than enough to save the film in general. You got Helen Mirren, John Malkovich, Morgan Freeman, Richard Dreyfuss, Julian McMahon, rest in peace, Dr. Doom, passed away earlier this week, but the action scenes are pretty good, the comedy does work for the most part, and it is a pretty enjoyable movie. I mean, there really isn't anything that memorable about it per se. John Malkovich, I think, overall, is the best thing about the movie, because unlike what he played in another DC movie from earlier in the year, Jonah Hex, he's fucking hilarious playing this psychotic nutcase. It's one of his best performances, if not his best performance ever, and that's saying a lot, because John Malkovich has had a ton of great works in his career, but Other than that, Red is a film that delivers on its promise from the trailers, boasting some pretty good action and comedy with a good cast to lead it. But other than that, there's really nothing all that memorable about it per se. I'm glad I saw it, but it's not one I never want to watch again per se. Which means that they have to make a sequel off of it because it was a big success. So, yeah, because clearly that's going to turn out very well. But anyway, that's the big wider releases. Now let's take a look at the limited releases this weekend, including Clint Eastwood's latest film, and that is Hereafter.
The job I had before was as a psychic.
Clint Eastwood's new film, Hereafter, is something to savor. It's amazing, bold, provocative, and profound. Matt Damon is marvelous, an motion picture experience that engages both your heart and mind.
If you're worried about being on your own, don't be. You're not.
Hereafter, rated PG-13.
So this is a film where you have three parallel stories about three people being affected by death in similar ways. All three have issues of communicating with the dead. One of them, you have Matt Damon playing an American factory worker who is able to communicate with the dead and who's worked professionally as a clairvoyant but no longer wants to communicate with the dead. Cécile de France, from Around the World in 80 Days, the 2004 film, plays a French television journalist who survives a near-death experience during the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. And British twins Marcus and Jason, played by Frankie and George McLaren. Bryce Dallas Howard, Lindsay Marshall, Jay Moore, and Thierry Neuvik also have supporting roles in the film. The idea of the film overall is impressive enough, and the performances do well, plus that tsunami scene overall is really, really good. Unfortunately, it's one scene, and like I said, the visuals are not great, but what do I always say on here? Visuals don't always make the movie. You gotta give me more than just good visuals. And sadly, the rest of the movie is kind of a bore. It's mostly because of the story itself. You never really get any satisfaction out of anything out of this, and you really end up finding yourself very disappointed with the overall end result of it. It just doesn't come together well as a film in general. And for Clint Eastwood, who was having a couple of really good movies around this time, to have this one coming up after stuff like Invictus and Gran Torino, and of course Flags of Our Fathers and Letters from Iwo Jima. This is definitely not one of his better movies in general, and it's sad to say, because this was around the time where he was kind of on that little bit of a wall with this, and then Trouble with the Curve, and then he'd slowly make a comeback with American Sniper just a couple of years later, but this one, not so much. This one's not that great of a film. Avoid Hereafter like the plague, unfortunately. But check that tsunami scene out online. I mean, I would recommend that more than I would say go out and find the movie in general, So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the last film we have here, which is Conviction.
Murder in the first degree.
Betty Ann Waters believed enough in her brother's innocence
You find a way to get him
to
out.
go back and finish high school.
So proud of you.
Get through college.
Try it again, Miss
And
Waters.
graduate from law school.
My baby sister, basketball!
Now, experience one woman's extraordinary 18-year journey to set her brother free. Conviction, the inspiring true story. Rated R.
You really want another one of these that badly, do you, Hilary Swank? Because this is the second time in the last year that we've looked at two Oscar bait movies, and and Amelia was terrible. This one is better, but yeah, this one, you're not getting your hands on this one. Sad to say. You've got two already, so just be happy with that, I guess. But in this movie, Hilary Swank plays Betty Ann Waters, who's a high school dropout who spends nearly 2 decades working as a single mother while putting herself through law school, tirelessly trying to beat the system and overturn her brother's unjust murder conviction, her brother being played by Sam Rockwell. And there's also a cast that also includes, if I can get the names up here, Minnie Driver, Melissa Leo, Peter Gallagher, Juliette Lewis. Written uncredited writing by Richard LaGravenese, who's worked with Hilary Swank on a couple of movies before this, P.S. I Love You and Freedom Riders. And this is directed by Tony Goldwyn, coming off of the last thing he directed, which was the infamous The Last Kiss. I guess this one's not bad, and certainly a much better film, but it's still not. Excuse me. I can't even get the words out right now, but it's not a bad movie. It's just not a great movie in general. It is a film that feels very much like a give me an Oscar type of movie for Hilary Swank and Sam Rockwell. And both of them would get, and Sam Rockwell would get his Oscar later on in the decade for Birdman. Did he get it for Birdman, or did he get it for 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri? Okay, he got it for 3 billboards outside of Ebbing, Missouri. Sorry, I thought he got one for Birdman. I couldn't remember. Let me see. No, I'm thinking of Edward Norton. I'm thinking of Edward Norton as for Birdman, but he did win an Oscar later in the decade for 3 billboards outside of Ebbing, Missouri. And that was a much better performance than anything in this film here. The film itself, like I said, it's not a terrible movie. It's just a bland, generic courtroom drama and a bland, uplifting a story about an underdog who spends the next 20 years trying to get to this point in her career. And it's just like, you know, you gotta have something more than that than just a schlocky story that we've seen done to death so many times before. It just doesn't work here, unfortunately. And like I said, it's a better directorial effort for Tony Goldwyn after The Last Kiss, but even then, it's not that great of a movie in general. Yeah, a mixed opinion. Not a great film, not a bad film. Just, it is what it is. It's better than The Last Kiss, but that ain't saying a whole lot. So that's conviction for you. And thus, with all that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. And next week, we only have one big new release to take a look at. Paranormal Activity. Paramount coming in and telling Jigsaw, hey, your time is up. Your time is up, you old doll. Here comes the next big horror franchise. This was their attempt to come out and say, we're taking over Halloween from this point from Saw, and proved to work in the process. Not only did it perform much better than the original film did, but it was a much better film than the first film was. We'll talk more about that coming up on the next episode. That'll be tomorrow on the channel. And other than that, that's about it for next week, since Hereafter is coming out in wide release the following week, so we already just covered that. But with all that said, though, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button. And also don't forget to hit our playlist, and don't forget to check out the last episode we did. So that, with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.